Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba. All right. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. And Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Get out of there. Promoter 101.
My name is Mark Ryder, and I work at Metallica HQ in the Bay Area of California, and I'm on Promoter 101.
We've made it to the last 25 episodes of the Promoter 101 podcast. And for this one, we've got special guests from Lyte, Ant Taylor, and from Eventbrite, Jeff White. You guys always seem to be together.
This is show 176 of the podcast. We feature AEG Presents Vice President of Talent for Global Touring's Adam Weiser.
Plus, 3 questions with absolutely live entertainment's Danny Melnick.
And off we go for episode 176.
This is Jason Flom,
John Valentino,
Jesse Lundy,
Dan Smalls,
Gino Shelton,
David Simone,
Ant Taylor,
Natalia,
Harvey fucking Leeds here
on Promoter 101.
No spoilers, but the podcast is coming to an end fast. But hey, you can join us for the final interview live and in person coming to Nashville, Tennessee at the AEG conference.
That's right. We'll do our final interview and live podcast recording from AEG as this year's keynote session. This is taking place October 27th to the 29th at JW Marriott in Nashville. We look forward to wrapping this up with so many of our friends in attendance. It'll be a very special podcast, and we're already working hard to ensure it'll be our best one yet.
If you had something you want to share with us, simply email us anytime at steinypromoter101.net. We're happy to respond to you day or night. Operators are standing by. We're ready to reach out to you.
If you'd rather hit us on social media, you're more than welcome to follow us on Twitter at WLukePierce. Dan's at The Jew, and the show is at Promoter 101. That's promoters, plural.
And we're also on Instagram at Steiny at Promoter 101. Luke is W. Luke Pierce, and I'm at Dan Presents.
And on Facebook at Promoter 101.
On Tumblr, if you're a 13-year-old girl, also at Promoter 101.
And on the World Wide Web at Promoter101.com. Plus, find us on LinkedIn.
Mike Luba, Madison S. Presents, Promoter 101.
Let's celebrate some birthdays for the week of August 13th to the 19th, 2019.
Tuesday, 8/13, Adam Bauer and Jack Hushit.
Wednesday, 8/14, Stuart Goldberg, Peter Jest, Donnie Kutzbach, Matthew Morgan, Tyler Fay, John Trembler, and Trish Galfano.
Thursday, 8/15, Cass Scripps, Rob Buswell, and Susie Gange.
Friday, 8/16, the one and only Elodie Steinberg. Hi, Elodie.
I like her. 8/17, China Swan, Seema Levine, Elma Sheck, and Neil Dixon.
Sunday, 8/18, Sally Williams, Dave Fortune, and Rachel Cohen.
Monday, 8/19, CJ Trock from William Morris in Denver, the Strock Man. Brad Rogers from Polestar, CAA's Kyle Wisconski, Brad Henderson of Nashville, and Bo Basic Plush. The Masquerades, Greg Green. Happy birthday to all you guys.
Wonderful wishes to all of you on your birthday from all of us here at Promoter 101.
Lucy Lawler-Freese, Rival Entertainment and the Fox Theater in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm on Promoter 101.
Promoter 101 Flashbacks.
Episode 72.
Sam Hunt.
So now that you guys are at Paradigm, it must open up a vast number of resources being at an agency that's a full service agency. So that changed how the approach is or some of the things that you now see that maybe you hadn't thought about before?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think of it as I had a Swiss Army knife before and now I have like a hardware store. It doesn't mean I need to like...
That's good.
There are so many more resources available and so much more knowledge. That doesn't mean that for every artist I work with, there are 15 different people in 15 different service departments that are relevant to them or need to help them. There's plenty of artists that I work with who are like, why do I need a film and TV person? I'm a band, I make music. Or why do I need branded opportunities? I'm not interested in that stuff. That's fine. I'm not like foisting other shit upon other people.
But the option's there.
Yeah. And beyond that, the level of mentorship and expertise is, to me, like near infinite because there are just senior, legendary, hyper-intelligent agents with totally different histories and experiences and rosters who approach things from a completely fundamentally different way than the people at Windish did. I mean, there's no like defined culture or like set of characteristics or even process for working at Windish. It was very much like a team of individuals doing things their own way. And that in itself was sort of a unifying trait. But that meant that that there was sort of like a finite approach to booking. Everyone sort of did things the way they did them, and that was that. So coming to Paradigm, when the way like Marty Diamond does something, or the way Johnny Edelman does something, or the way Lee Anderson does something, are like completely fundamentally different from the way we did things at Windish. And that's super awesome to see. That doesn't mean I'm going to go out and emulate exactly what they do, but there's like so much wisdom to pluck from each different person.
Find a hybrid of what works best for you.
Yeah. And maybe it's the way Aaron Pincus structures his deals, or the way Lee schedules his phone calls, or the way Marty communicates with his managers, or something, anything like that. Like the way I've always operated is seeing what other people do and trying to collect what I can from it that makes sense or doesn't make sense. And that's been cool to experience and cool to watch other people experience.
Hi, I'm Michael Yerke from Live Nation. I'm the president of talent for House of Blues Entertainment, and you're here at Promoter 101.
Up next, Absolutely Live Entertainment's Danny Melnick plays 3 questions.
Danny Melnick, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, fellas.
Are you ready to play 3 questions?
I am so ready.
Standing at the mound, your first pitch. What do you got?
Okay. How do you manage the responsibility of checking out new artists versus the guilt of not being able to dig into all of it?
Guilt?
Like, people send you all this stuff and they want you to come to all these shows, and I feel like if you can't get to it, you kind of feel guilty about it, you know?
Nah, I feel guilty about not spending enough time with my kid. I feel guilty about not having time to read. I feel guilty about not going through, like, my closet and getting rid of shit that's been sitting there for 5 years. I don't feel guilty about not listening to somebody else's project. It's an all-day thing. It never stops. You get inundated. I don't think on my deathbed I'll be sitting there going, I wish I had checked out SoundCloud for 20 more hours a week. It's not going to be a regret at all. I take in as much as I possibly can. The cream rises to the top. If it's good, we're going to see it.
Yeah, I agree. I do have some guilt, and I have all those other guilts too. So I guess it goes with the Jewy, but you know, it's definitely there. I just feel like these artists particularly expect you to hear stuff and listen, and they check in with you, and I don't know.
Really? I mean, because I don't think they're going to feel guilty when they decide to take the bigger offer later down the road after you did the work for them.
Very good point. Yep.
It goes 2 ways. You see them on the way up and you see them on the way down. And I've noticed when I see them on the way down, they never apologize for, you know, not being there on the whole way up for us. It was just, oh, there was a better offer and we took it and fuck you. The fuck you is implied.
Right. Exactly.
They're the few that you connect with and have a personal relationship that will still be doing business for a long time with you. But I don't think there's any guilt on their side. And I certainly don't thrust any guilt upon them when they take an offer that's presented to them. You know, it's part of the business. But I don't feel bad that I didn't get a chance to go check out their showcase.
Mm-hmm.
I feel more guilty about, you know, not getting the time to see my kid dance in her next recital. It's like, that's the shit I feel guilty about. Missing a band play that's going to like cycle back through again in 9 months? Nah.
I appreciate that answer. My next question is, are you on the phone with the agents as much as you were years ago? And if not, do you miss that?
You're meaning pre-internet, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me as a presenter and a buyer, I used to spend so much time on the phone with the agents. There was just this relationship, these connections, these conversations. And now I find that my phone very rarely rings. It's all by email, and it's weird. It's not nearly what it used to be like. And there are times when I'm fine with it because I just don't want to deal with the phone all the time. And then there are, for me, times when I do miss it because, I don't know, I miss some of those connections and those relationships and hearing their passion about their artist and, you know, or if they know how to even pitch their artist, you know, like you hear stuff on the phone, like it's so different than an email. So I'm just wondering, as you as a presenter and a buyer, like how do you feel about that?
I think it all comes down to the detail, right? So if it's just a back and forth detail thing where it's simple, email is great. But if there's finesse involved, it's always harder to say no to somebody when you can hear the sound of their voice, you know? So when I really want to make the pitch, you know, picking up the phone, trying to finesse the deal through, I can do that a whole lot better over the phone than I can in written form. Because you know the message is going to be received. You hear them. You hear how they're responding. You can hear where they're wavering. You can push a little harder. You can, you know, come on, you know, I'll pay it forward. Bring me this. I'll make it up. I'll owe you one. Do me the solid. I need this.
Right.
That can be expressed so much better verbally. And there are other times where it's just like, yeah, of course we're doing more interaction via email. It's just how the business works. And we all multitasking and running through. But I truly believe that different people do business in different ways. And my job is to get the business either way. So if you want to do a hybrid where we're emailing and calling, let's do that. If you just want to email me and you never want to talk, I can do that. If you just want to get on the phone and do all of our business over the phone, and a lot of the old school guys are like that, I'm fine with with that too. I will try and make as much time and do business in whatever format works best. I do prefer to have all the details in writing. So when it comes up later that maybe there wasn't a rent cap or maybe I didn't give you that merch rate, it's like, ooh, let me re-forward that to you. This is the email you sent me on 8/23 where you approved that merch deal. Here's that rent cap that you put into place on 9/5 that you absolutely swear you didn't give me that I have from your email server that I'm delivering back to you.
Exactly.
I'm big on confirming the deal on the front side and not fighting later.
Yes.
Like, let's spend an extra 10 minutes working out the deal right fucking now and not forget about it later. It's like, all right, this was the deal we made. Okay, I'm going to send you an email in real time that we had the conversation. Here were the terms that you gave me over the phone that I fucking typed out while we were talking. So you won't say to me at settlement, I don't remember that. It's like, here's that email that I sent you right after the call. And I'll usually ask, please confirm that we're on the same page.
All right. My final question is, which music magazines and or trade magazines do you subscribe to? Do you find them valuable, even though you could probably get the headlines online in advance?
I love the hybrid of what happens when you subscribe now because they all send you the newsletter, right? I get the daily newsletter from Encore, which is Celebrity Access, which I find very, very helpful. And it comes out at midnight on the West Coast. So you wake up to that, or if you happen to be up, you can scan through. Plus, you get to see who's on Left Sets is focusing on and who Larry's focusing on and who's on Promoter 101. But you get the headlines, and that's always kind of great because whatever they put at top is usually really pressing. Polestar sends their daily blast out, and sometimes they send multiples of, as releases are coming, which are great. And I find that really helpful. Dave Brooks sends one, which is really, really good because Dave really gets in there and is cutting edge and amplified Billboard. Billboard sends a second one. The amplified sends the real. Billboard sends theirs. So right there, that's 4 that are coming out. Also, IQ in London, I get theirs because I like the international business as well. And I go over to ILMC and there's a subscription related thing there. So I'm on that list. I'm also getting Relics email, which is a daily thing now. And I believe there's a couple of other industry norms that like pop into my email box on the reg, whether it's Rolling Stone or Variety but there's a bunch of them that are out there that you just like keeping up on what's going on. I also get the Left Sets letter. Love the Left Sets letter. I was just talking to one of my favorite executives yesterday and he was telling me he enjoys the mailbag more than the letter itself. He loves the responses.
Yeah, I do too. I love the mailbag.
And it's funny. And I've known Bob 20 plus years now, so I can hear Bob's voice as I read he's so detailed.
Yeah.
It's like a David Sedaris in a way for the industry where I can hear the tone in his voice when I'm reading him. So I can hear like the oys and of Bob while I'm reading the Left Sets letter. So I kind of enjoy it because it's like Bob's having dinner with you. But I really, really love the Billboard, Polestar, Amplified, IQ, and Encore package of emails that come through with the headlines. The great thing about the headline is you don't have to click on the story. If you've seen it in all the other trades, you're just like, you skip right over it. And if you haven't, you're like, oh, cool. I want to know what's going on with that. And usually it starts with who got acquired and who went to work for this company that used to be at work at that company, or who just lost so much money on their festival that they are now not doing next week's festival. Like those things.
Yeah, I like it too. I love the emails. I like reading the publications. I think that it's just a wealth of information about the bands, about the industry, about trends, about culture in general. And I learn a lot, and I'm just very excited about it. And I just feel like, I don't know, it's just a really inspiring thing to just see all that stuff that's still going on and all these people that are still doing what they're doing and all these different marketplaces and all these different ways.
Well, Danny, thank you so much for playing Promoter 101's 3 questions. Before you leave, anything that the world should be knowing about what you're working on at the moment?
Got Saratoga Jazz Fest in upstate New York, a jazz series at Carnegie Hall throughout next year, and a whole bunch of other tours and special events. We do criminal justice reform benefits and a lot of other things. So been very busy, and thankfully so.
Sounds like jazz is well and alive in the world of Danny Melnick. Thank you so much for being on Promoter 101.
Thank you very much.
Danny is the man, and we're so thrilled to have him right here on Promoter 101.
This is Mary Claire Borgelli from Live Nation, Promoter 101, best podcast in the music industry.
It's time for the unveiling of Promoter 101 Badass of the Week.
This week it goes out to UTA's Lance Roberts. He was the guest on the podcast last week. Such a killer guy. Everyone in Nashville just loves that dude. This week's Promoter 101 Badass of the Week goes out to Lance Roberts.
Hard to argue with any of that. Congrats, Lance.
This is Mike Mills from Mills Entertainment, and you're listening to Promoter 101.
In the feature interview this week, AEG Vice President of Talent for Global Touring, Adam Weiser, as the Nashville sessions continue.
Adam Weiser, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, buddy. Welcome to Nashville.
Right off the bat, I got to ask you. You're this East Coast guy that's known for booking the cool club shows up there in Jersey and New York forever. And now you're in country touring in Nashville. What the fuck?
I mean, this beautiful weather, of course.
It is some Seattle weather we've got today for all the people that can see this over the internet.
Yeah. It's an amazing community down here. I mean, that's really first and foremost. It's I've never lived anywhere outside of the Northeast. I was a New York guy, born and raised. Till about 10 years ago, I moved to Jersey.
But you got those roots in like punk and rock and metal and hardcore. It just like doesn't exactly lend itself to Johnny Cash.
Funny enough, I would disagree. I would say it lends itself to an awesome community of people. And growing up in, the punk hardcore scene of Long Island, booking Starline Ballroom the last 12 years, it's a community of people. And I think that when I first started coming down to Nashville, I realized that it's very similar to my history of music and my personal taste. The friendships I've created and sort of the community I was about is incredibly similar down here.
Yeah, but things like Starline Ballroom, like your baby, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, 12 years. It's pretty crazy.
So to go from Taking Back Sunday to Old Dominion is quite a jump. Let's start in the middle. You went to college where?
I jumped around a little bit, went from music business to Oneonta, SUNY Oneonta. Ended up finishing in community college at Nassau Community College on Long Island.
East Coast, true and true.
East Coast, like I said, born in New York, always been there. Started at a small club on Long Island, the Downtown. It's probably about 2001.
Okay, and did you play in a band?
Couldn't play, that's why I'm in the business.
Most of us are failed musicians.
Yeah.
Can work an Excel program like mad, man. You never really hear, dude, give him the Excel solo. All right, so you find the industry. How did you find it?
Babysat the right person's kids. So when I was, I'd say late teens, not even early 20s, late teens, I was in community college, as mentioned, and there was a radio station across the street, WLIR, world famous radio station on Long Island. Recently, I actually saw a documentary, I believe, on Showtime called Dare to Be Different about the radio station and the history of it. But it really, for me growing up on Long Island, this is where all my music came from. This was the only station I listened to at the time. Played everything from 80s new wave to, modern cuts, a lot of album cuts, things like that. There's never been a radio station like it. So across the street from my school was the radio station. I got an internship there. The station had a part ownership in a small concert venue, the Vanderbilt in Plainview, the town I grew up in. And I was doing, radio promo for the station, but had a real love for live music. And I would go to any way I can be involved as an intern, pushing road cases, being a runner, whatever I could do on the concert side, although that wasn't really part of my internship. Got to know the director of operations. I learned at a young age, you do it, you kind of need to do to just be involved and be around it, whether it's getting coffee or, like I said, like running bands around or whatnot. And he had asked me to babysit his kids. And I started doing that, just helped him out, helped his family out, got to know him. He ultimately left. He opened up a concert venue, the Downtown, which was a 500 cap on Long Island. Went there with him. My first job, counting bottles in the liquor room and mopping floors and all that sort of stuff.
Entry level shit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, beyond entry level. And the venue opened in 2001 with Jimmy Cliff. And at the time, it was a 21 and over venue. It was Little River Band, Dave Mason, Nancy Sinatra. It was, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but My Father's Place was a historic Long Island venue. It was sort of a take on that, where it was a 500 cap GA or about 200 seated, and it was
called My Father's Place, not literally,
your
My Father's Place, but
a cutesy name. And yeah, it was sort of a take on that. Kind of a lot of like cabaret style shows. Like I said, you'll have the Little River Band and, Jewel played there. I'm trying to think about but at the time, I mean, it was the only thing like that on Long Island. As I said, I was close to the owner. And
kind of similar stuff that maybe B.B. King's was booking.
Totally. Very much. Long Island's version of B.B. King's. And close to the owner. And I guess, like you said, I was in the punk rock scene, and that was my background, and knew nothing of booking concerts. But I asked him why we can't book bands I listen to. There's no place for me to go to shows outside of VFW halls and things like that. And he's like, so do it. And I was like, couldn't tell you the first thing about it. He's like, great. What band do you want? Let's find out who the agent is. Let's call the agent. And we did. And we booked our first show. And it was a Sunday afternoon, I remember, with a band called Autopilot Off. And
great band.
Chris Hughes, business manager's band. Sold out. And, he said, great. Sundays, you've got Sundays. Start booking concerts. And Catch 22, Hot Water Music, Hot Rock, like things like this. And everything was it was a community. And everything was doing great. And one day he said, hey, you know what? I own this place. I'm running this place. Take over the calendar. Book everything. I'll do it with you, but let's book, you're going to start booking everything from Burning Spear to Jimmy Cliff and Nancy Sinatra and whatever else. And then we had, My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy, Taking Back Sunday, Hatebreed. The list just kept sort of going. And it really, for the 5 years that the venue was there, became a in my scene, at least, a historic venue on Long Island.
On one side, you're booking these shows for maybe our parents with Nancy Sinatra and what, a Starship or whatever. And then on the other side, you're booking the shows that you wanted to see where tickets maybe be 10 or 15 bucks,
Totally.
but punk rock ethic implied and all ages, I'm assuming.
Yeah, all ages. But what's crazy is, and I go back to sort of the work community of like, I still talk to a lot of the bands that played there. You know, I'm still doing shows with them these days. You know, now we're talking 15 years later. That venue left an impression on a community of people, mostly in the younger punk rock community, because it took them out of the VFW halls and things like that to playing their first true concerts in legitimate venues and, you know, catering and all that sort of stuff.
So there's something that I always find interesting, and, you know, we're at Polestar or Billboard or whatever, whenever we bump into each other, there's a thing where guys like John Hampton and Striegel, you and me, Ethan Levinson, guys that like booked shitty rock clubs to start. We always kind of wind up like in the corner talking about like
good old days.
Right. The Rare Melvins album we found like some record store day. That passion for music. None of us thought it was going to be a career, you know? It's just like Nate at First Avenue, Nick Miller, this very legitimate love for music that came from booking these bands that it's like, I wouldn't have known who they were unless Steel Pole Bathtub was just the next band that the agency had coming through town and we did all their other stuff. You know, it's like, oh my God, everything AmRep has on their label is amazing. Who knew? Yep. It's like, okay, let's go down this fucking hole. And you discover all these amazing bands, but it's like, go back and like talk about the bands that everybody's like, dude, you saw Jesus Lizard? It's like, dude, they came through every 6 months. The band never stopped
200
working.
Cap Club, yeah.
They never stopped working. They were always there until they weren't anymore.
Right.
I don't know. It's maybe a fraternity of like bookers that book these shitty little rooms, speak a different language.
I think that's what makes us who we are as promoters, is that we had that love for a certain genre. We had that love, like we had such passion for a community, for a band, for things like that, and that sort of history. And I'm not saying that everyone doesn't, but it almost took, business was secondary to me. Like growing up in this, business was secondary. It was all about, I got to see these bands every single night. I got to hang out with these bands. Like this is what made it such an awesome, and I'm like, and I get to do this for a living. Like what's better, you know?
I remember hearing from time to time people tell me, I don't want to do a show unless I can make $10,000 on it. You know, it's just like still thinking in the back of my head, dude, I remember having shows that I didn't think would gross $10,000, let alone netting $10,000. Dude, your contribution margin is going to be under 10 grand. Why are you messing with it? I'm like, dude, somebody's got to build the band to get to a point where they're going to gross 10 grand before they net 10 grand.
I learned the biggest thing for me back in the day was being able to give the bands catering. That was it. Like when bands would come through and they'd be like, you know, I'd be great. Here's a menu. We have a restaurant in house, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Tell us what you guys want. We have a chef. And they were like, what? We usually get $50, $25 for the band to split. We go order 2 pizzas and a case of beer.
But you're
and
feeding
that's it.
us.
Yeah.
Dude, we love you. You know, the highest praise from a band back then was without asking, dude, do you want a shirt?
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
Because you know they couldn't afford it, but yet they were like wanted to make sure that if you ask for a shirt, they give you a shirt. But if they ask if you want a shirt, that's the difference. Like that's true band approval.
Agreed. I remember tons of times sitting, you know, you'd sit there, you'd pay the band always in cash at night. You know, it was never back then. It was like, they'd be like, hey man, can I get you a shirt? Do you want, you know, what size are you? You want something? I was like, that's awesome. Yeah. And I'm going to rock that shirt until it's
and there's
cold
pride with that shirt. It's like, man, I got a Voodoo Glow Skill shirt that I still wear. That's just like, who do voodoo we do, man?
I was just looking the other day, Catch 22. You remember the band?
Yeah.
They shot their DVD at this club that I worked at, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And it was in the day that like every band was coming out with DVDs back. You know, it was just another way to.
Right, 'cause you had a friend in film school that put it together. Right?
And I remember being in it and like them thinking that it was so cool because I was in the we never had a barricade at this club, but we put a barricade for the cameras to be in, and I was in there catching kids that were crowd surfing and whatever because it just wasn't part of what we did.
Right.
And
all hands on deck.
I was trying to explain to my stepdaughters the other day I'm like I was cool. I promise. Like look at this, and I couldn't find it anywhere.
First time I did Circle Jerks, I co-promoted with Bill Bass, who was at Fake Concerts at the time.
Yeah.
And so it was the first time, Andy Summers was the agent. It was the first time I ever did a massive punk rock show. And then they had that single at the moment with Debbie Gibson or whatever. And it was a weird thing, but it was like Unwritten Law supporting, packed, sold out shows. It was the day Jerry Garcia died, actually.
Oh, wow.
And Bill Bass grabs me and he's like, I spent $22 to sell the show out. He's like, this is where you earn your wings, kid. Let's go. It's like, what? He's like, let's go in the barricade and catch kids. I'm like, what are you talking about? Security's in there. He's like, they work for us. Let's go. He's like, best part of the show, catching kids. He's like, when the lead singer sees you grabbing kids coming over, not only does it look like you care, but it shows that you're not too good to fucking like help out the security team. I'm like, are we allowed to be back there? He's like, they work for us.
Yep.
By the way, no better place to fucking see the show than while kids are coming over right there. He's like, no one else gets to do this.
As a failed musician, that's the closest shot to being on stage too. So back then, like I knew half the kids that were coming to shows. Like it was this community of people, and like they knew you were you were the guy. You were the guy that was at the front door ripping tickets. You were the guy that was catching crowd surfers. You were the guy that was selling hot dogs in the corner. You know, it was like you did whatever you did to sort of keep the show afloat and going, and all hands on deck.
So how do you jump from being the guy booking the cool shows at the club in a 300 to 500 seat or whatever to working for AEG locally in New York?
Had a short stint afterwards, left the club. Actually, when I left, Christian McKnight at Live Nation, he wasn't at Live Nation at the time, had taken over for the club. Again, talk about a small community of people. But went over to Warner Music Group, had an incubator system, independent label group, which I believe is still there. I'm not sure if anyone that I work with is there. But Fred Feldman, owner of Triple Crown Records, ran the incubator. I went over there, did tour marketing for 2 years.
So you got to learn the label business.
Yeah, learned I didn't want to be in a label.
What a great time to figure that out then, because, wow, right as you were leaving, that kind of whole world fell apart.
This was before streaming. This was super early into that game.
What a great way to learn marketing.
Yeah, and we had deals with Hopeless Records, Fearless Records. I'm trying to think 111 Records, and obviously Triple Crown, and so we were working a lot of these. All Time Low, we worked the album, Mayday Parade, again, bands that were from the same community that I came from. So learning the touring side of it, that was really my first step into it, because it was one, working with bands who didn't even have agents and helping them get on the road and helping them find agents. And then two was when they were on the road, finding out how to service the promoters that they had. It was sending posters, sending music. We were sending hard physical copies of the CDs and whatever else. And if there was any connecting sponsors, trying to connect brands with bands and whatever else. So spent 2 years there, got a call one day out of nowhere from Mark Schulman at AEG New York that they were in the process of acquiring Starland Ballroom in New Jersey, was looking for an in-house buyer that had a history of booking a suburban market. Got my name, knew what I did on, what I had done on Long Island and the history of the club there, and asked if I wanted to come on board. And rest is history, last 12 years.
Okay, so you're working for Mark, and you're booking the ballroom, and you're killing it there. You guys were getting some really great shows.
Thank you.
How does that progress into touring?
2012, Starland was closed for almost a year due to Hurricane Sandy, flood. We had 6 feet of water in the club that pretty much took out all of our power. All of our electrical had to be redone. Floors had to be redone. Pretty much ripped the club down to beams and studs. Walls, everything. Bars, everything came out. At the time, AEG, to all of our staff there, was like, great, we're supporting you. We're going to get through this. It was 8, 10 months, whatever it was that we were closed. Keep contributing, doing what you can. I want to say we canceled 32 shows. But instead of, at that moment, and at this time I was booking the club, instead of canceling, we sort of turned around and looked at it as an opportunity. Okay, well, how do we form new relationships and establish new relationships? And instead of canceling them, we found homes for them. I think at the end of the day, we probably canceled 10 shows.
Of the 32 that had to be moved?
Yeah. And whether it was venues in the market, the Count Basie Theater, the State Theater, Pine Belt Arena, Monmouth University, venues that we had never really extended our reach outside of the club. We just started reaching out. We reached out to, at the time Bowery Presents was booking the Walmart, reached out to them, everybody of just, hey, we've got the show. This is the situation we're in. Before we announce it, can we move the show? AEG, we'll absorb the guarantee. We'll figure it out, whatever. And we did. And I think it opened up a lot of opportunities for us on the market. And for me, it became almost even like an outer market thing. I started taking on opportunities in Albany, in upstate New York, in Syracuse, in Buffalo, and Long Island.
Stan Levinstone was thrilled to hear that.
I love partnering with big old Stan. It opened up a lot of opportunity for us. And I realized that I wanted to still we live in a world where if you're not in an agent's face or a manager's face all the time, I don't want to say you're forgotten, but they call somebody else. So I still wanted to continue that. And all of us at the club wanted to continue that. And we just kept doing it. We said, great, you know what? We don't have, you mentioned Andy Summers. We don't have a place for Pennywise to play at Starland right now, but I'll find you a home. And whether it's finding a home, on Long Island or somewhere else in New Jersey or upstate New York and partnering with Stan or Donnie and Artie up at Fun Time, it was just finding opportunities to find homes for bands and continue talking to agents. And when the club opened, all of a sudden we had this network of relationships, whether it was with other promoters, clubs, whether it was in New Jersey, outside of New Jersey, and just sort of continued it and continued using, hey, we've got Innovel at Starland. Let's see where else we can put with it. So that was really what we started doing. And I would say that would have been the entry level into touring, because we were sort of putting together our own little network of the Northeast. I'll never forget, after I was doing a Chris Young, Lee Bryce show in Syracuse at the On Center, their agent called and said, well, hey, do you want to do Corbin, Kentucky? And I was like, I don't know anything about Corbin, Kentucky. He's like, great. What did you know about Syracuse? And he's like, you're from New Jersey, And I was like, fair enough. And we did Corbin, Kentucky, and we sold out the arena down there. And he's like, great, let's do more shows. And that was really the step into touring.
You know, it's kind of interesting because country didn't exist as a genre because there wasn't a station in the market for so long in New York, which is one of the biggest markets for country in the world now because it is there and it has happened.
Yeah. I mean, for me, that was a life-changing, us getting a radio station, a country station in New Jersey, actually, WKMK, in 2010. The day the station flipped from an alt-rock station to country was my first trip to Nashville. And I came down here, I said, teach me everything.
We're open for business. Let's
Larry
go.
Vallon, Deborah Rathwell, Casey McCabe, and I came down here, and I was like, just introduce me to people. Larry, teach me everything. I had never done a country club show before at Starland. We did, in the first month, we did Rodney Atkins, Eric Church, and Dierks Bentley. You know, to go back to sort of the background, it was the community of people down here sort of rallied. They saw an opportunity, you know, and I learned that they were supportive of what we were doing up there, and they kept sort of feeding the machine, you know. And
Well, yeah, it's like for them, it's opening up a whole nother market that they haven't tapped yet.
Agents down here were really supportive in the fact that, you know, touring in this community is really different in that it's more weekend warrior. It's not like, hey, we've got you for 6 weeks, let's route you around the country.
Right. Well, because you can satellite in different directions. Thursday to Sunday, back.
So if all of a sudden we opened up a window of the tri-state area to go play, which they were not hitting before, it's great. We need you because we need another weekend, you know? So if you can go book New Jersey, Albany, and Long Island or New York or whatever it is, like, great. And we just, you know, we were supportive any way we can. I mean, going back to, it's weird that I'm making that or that's become a sort of a theme of our conversation of community, but the community of people in Nashville was great. And they were supportive of what we were doing as a company and as a team up in the Northeast. And they were opening other doors. Like I said, you know, hey, do you want to do Corbin, Kentucky? Do you want to do, and coming from, I mean, I'm sure you know from the history, you don't say no, you know?
Yes opens doors.
Yes opens doors. And, you know, we had a great opportunity with Old Dominion and Stagecoach, and we created the Stagecoach Spotlight Tour. Stacey V and myself and Brittany DeLava and Cody Lazier in our office, you know, we sort of sat with the team down here and said, well, we want to extend the Stagecoach brand. You guys haven't really done a major club tour yet. Let's figure out how we route this both through our clubs in the system and then also externally and playing the right venues. And we went out and did the Stagecoach Spotlight Tour. And there was opportunities and tapping into those opportunities within our company to extend that branch.
Country touring is an interesting thing because a lot of that's built into the sheds, which leads itself to Brian O'Connell. But Louis Messina, who built all the sheds originally for the most part,
Yeah.
possibly the biggest country promoter in the world, depending on the year. Brian and Louis probably tread that title back and forth, depending on who's got album cycles at that moment. But Kenny Chesney, Taylor Swift, George Strait, like we can go on for an hour with this, right? So Louis got this massive touring arm, and he happens to be at your company.
Yeah.
So you're in country touring. I know there's a relationship there. How did that come to open up?
I mean, I've always considered him a mentor. I mean, he from, I forget, I think it was Taylor's first arena tour. I was new at the company. I want to say maybe it was 2007, 2008. And I knew who Louis was, but Taylor was coming to Long Island. And I said, hey, can I get 2 tickets to come to the show? He's like, yes, man, we'll leave you 2 passes. Come say hi, introduce yourself. I did. And you know, we talked for a while, and again, sort of just love for music, for people, whatever else. And, you know, next time he'd be in town with Kenny Chesney, Louis, can I come out to yes, come out, you know, and same thing. And he was always incredibly supportive. The route that I have always wanted to take, where my passion lies, and it goes, you know, whether it's like what I was doing at Warner with our team, it's artist development. I love being part of the team. And, you know, we can be talking clubs and theaters. We can be talking arenas. There are guys that are out there that are doing the mega stuff. And I hope to be doing, I mean, I'm honored to be involved in projects, part of a team that does some of those projects. But my true passion has been artist development. And that's, you know, if I was able to, you know, to take an artist and do a club tour, then the next tour we're doing a intermediate arena tour. And, you know, that does great. And then we go to an arena tour. Like, to me, that's the success, is being part of that team. And how sort of I play my role in that team.
Okay, so you've been on some very successful teams, Kelsey Ben Arena, Old Dominion, like all tours you've been very hands-on with.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys got into bed with Old Dominion. They were at the same team with Dale Morris as Kenny. Obviously, Louis is very helpful in that world. How did that all come to play out?
I mean, honestly, the first time I saw them was on a Chesney tour, and thought they were amazing. At the time, I was booking a free concert series every Wednesday on the beach in New Jersey with our radio station, and said, hey, they're with Chesney on Saturday afternoon, or Saturday, you know, they're playing the first band on of 4 at the MetLife Stadium. Can they play on Wednesday at our thing? You know, whatever the guarantee was, the free show. Yeah, great. No problem. No conflict, you know. We did that, and, you know, at the time I remember seeing them, like, this band is amazing. Like, this band is great. And, you know, it was really just in a conversation of everyone internally of like, great. I would love to just continue establishing this relationship and see how we can support the band as a company. And like I said, lead to the Stagecoach Spotlight Tour, lead to arena tours. Everybody, whether management, agent, internal, is really supportive of relationships. So if you're out there and you're establishing the relationship, great, go run with it, and let's see how we can use the assets internally, the people internally, to support that.
Okay, so Global Touring is a fairly new title at AEG.
Yeah, a couple years old.
Overseen by Gary Gersh at this point.
Yes.
How do you go from being the local guy to moving to Nashville? Because I think we skipped that step where you were getting into country music and you brought country to the Northeast.
So as I said, an agent sort of said, hey, you booked it in Syracuse, book it in Corbin, and said, let's talk about touring. And in the New York office, Deborah Rathwell and her team worked in our office as well. And seeing what, and knowing what Deborah did in her relationships with artists. And I said, well, Deborah, I have an opportunity here. How do I extend this? And Deborah provided the team, and we did a Chris Young tour, and it was clubs and theaters at the time. And next tour we went and did intermediate arenas, and same thing, everything sold out. And in 2018 did a sold out arena tour. That was really my entry into touring, and then obviously into global touring, because I got a taste for it, and being part of a team, being part of a community, all of that, I was like, to me, this is where I belong. It's very different when you're sort of a regional or a local promoter. I think your ethos and your thought on how you go about your business and what you do and what you can contribute to the artist team at the end of the day. In touring, you're part of a team.
You're in the discussion.
Yeah. You may have an opinion about a song or an album or whatever else, but you play your role in touring, and how can you support and help this team in touring, and how can you help extend their brand if it's new music? Obviously as promoters, we have access to ticket buyer data, things like that. So seeing how we played our part, really, I took a real interest in that. So when it came to touring, I worked really closely with Rick Mueller and Brittany DeLava and the club and theater team. I had a couple of tours that I was lucky to work on that sort of fell into global touring, and then ultimately realized that the projects that I were involved with and the artists that I was working for and with really fell into the global touring world.
What's next for you? What's the goal?
I think that as we continue growing global touring, especially here in the community, it's really, I love working with the artists that we're working for now and continue growing with them and continue learning. I mean, I have a lot to learn. Like I said, I've really only been doing this within global touring for about a year now. So there's a lot to learn. There's amazing people in global touring that make me look good at times. But, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of great assets within AEG that we get to tap into and learn more about that and how we can use those to support the artists and really just continue doing what we're doing right now. I mean, I'm incredibly lucky at the moment working within global touring and working for and with the artists that we are. So if we can continue working with them and developing and playing our part, I feel we're doing a great job.
Awesome. Dude, before I let you go, let's get to know you a little bit better.
Sure.
Favorite movie?
Empire Records.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sugar High.
Of course.
Awesome. Love that. What's your guilty pleasure?
Dark chocolate M&Ms.
Dark chocolate
Which
M&Ms.
I recently only learned, funny story, I used to always go to Times Square in New York to the M&M store to buy the dark chocolate M&Ms and paid like $12 a pound or whatever it was. I only learned recently that you can buy them at any CVS or Walgreens or Duane Reade or whatever else for like 99 cents. So...
I love that. I love that you called yourself out on that. That's
of course.
Freaking awesome.
I thought I had a secret.
First concert?
Green Day Dookie Tour, 94 Nassau Coliseum.
Support was Pansy Division?
Vandals.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good show.
Yeah, great show.
$15 tickets.
Probably in there. I remember sitting on the phone with maybe Ticketron or maybe it was Ticketmaster at that point, but just calling over and over to try to get those tickets.
A philosophy you try to live by?
I don't know. Be nice to people. That's always been my thing. I've always, the more supportive and nicer that I am to people, I feel like the same is returned. So
Adam Weiser on Promoter 101. Thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you, and enjoy this fine city today.
Adam has an amazing story. So excited he shared it with us on Promoter 101.
Promoter 101.
Promoter 101?
Promoter 101.
The podcast.
With Steiny and the Pierce.
The quote of the week comes to us from Robert Louis Stevenson. Find out where joy resides and give it a voice far beyond singing. For to miss joy is to miss all. Ain't that the truth, Ant?
Deep.
Hey, it's Rich Best with Live Nation Los Angeles, and I'm on Promoter 101.
This concludes our broadcast day, but you can write us an email at steiny@promoter101.net if you miss us or just want to catch up.
Hey, we'll return this Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. on the Eastern Seaboard, at midnight for Greenwich Mean Time, folks. That's London for people in the know.
Join us then when we feature Greg Schmalley from Access Ticketing.
Until then, we're wishing you sold-out shows for the weeks to come.
Cheers.
Call your mother.
Hey.
Dawn Holiday, Promoter 101.